Welcome to another Pro View with Stephen Warnock, me, Gareth Roberts as well, and we've got Jay McKenna for this one as well because Paul Cope's somewhere in Bali naked and we don't really know what he's up to or when he'll be back. So Jay's kindly stepped in today to have a chat with Steve. If you haven't watched or listened to this show before, the idea is very simple. Steve obviously played as a professional for a long time, including for Liverpool Football Club, and so he knows a little bit about what it's like to be behind the scenes, playing the games, at training, in the dressing rooms and that kind of thing. And we're trying to get a little bit of insight out of him about the game. So on this one, Steve, we wanted to bring it round to where Liverpool are right now, and obviously lots of pressure on Liverpool, pressure being discussed all the time. The players saying, we're all right, we're fine. The media saying, you must be under pressure, and this continuous circle around it all. But what we've just seen over the last couple of days is a lot of them on holiday, on beaches. Mo's drawing You'll Never Walk Alone in the Sand. Lallana's messing around with pigs.
I don't think he did that.
Pigs, I know.
Someone's done that when he's got there.
It looked great though.
Yeah, he's definitely had a text off his agent. I've got this cracking idea for it, sweet mate.
Lallana's in the sea with pigs, but you know they all seem to be relaxing and getting ready for the big game. So what I wanted to get you on though is when you know it is a big game and when there is that pressure and when the media are ramping it up like they have been around Liverpool, what did you do as a pro and what did your coaches and managers do at times that have stuck with you, that worked for you? Because everyone's a good footballer, obviously, who's playing Premier League. You don't get there by accident, you don't stay there by accident. But it's all about getting yourself in a place where you can be your very best, isn't it?
I think it's always looking to the main man in charge. I think you always look to your manager and how calm he is. I think there's been questions about Jurgen's mentality or him putting himself in front of the press and how he's been of late. There was a sort of a feeling that he was losing it a bit. And then in recent weeks, he's been sort of blaming wind, blaming pitches and things like that. One of the big things I always found was when you look at your manager and he's calm and he's telling you to just trust the process and trust what's going on, it relaxes the players as well. I think once you see your manager starting to sort of take a bit of a different turn, a different sort of persona that he gives off on TV or in front of the press, I think that changes everyone else's because suddenly they start to panic as well and think the same thing. So I think one thing you've got to do is look for him for guidance, but also your senior players, the likes of Van Dijk, the likes of Milner, Sturridge, these Shaqiri, they're the four players that have won trophies and have been in title chasing changing rooms and understand what it is like to play under big pressure and to deliver that first title. And I think that's what you've always got to do is follow suit and understand that you've played well and you've got to a certain point, so why try and change the way you approach it? But that can be very difficult because I think that's where we've spoken in the past, that psychologists come into play, because you can caution on the... it's like going into a cup tie and you're winning with 10 minutes to go and suddenly you're winning 2-1 or 2-0, you concede a goal and they come back into the game and there's a mad flurry for the next 10 minutes and people are putting it out of play, they're panicking under pressure really when you should just carry on your normal game. And no one can explain why that happens and what actually goes on, but it's your mindset, and it's your mindset that takes over, and that's where psychologists have to come into play to understand how to calm players down.
Do you think you watch I think of this in the TV programme Billions, they do that at the higher end of business, don't they? Yeah. You know, people have someone they can just go and talk to. So would pro players be doing that now? Would you expect that some of the players have maybe come back and it's not a formal session with a psychologist, but maybe they grab them 5 minutes with them saying, how was your break? Looking for little cues and
there has to
giveaways.
I think there has to be, and I think there's been an acceptance now that psychologists are a huge part of not only football but sport in general. I think years ago it was perceived as a weakness to use a psychologist and it was a sign that you needed help in a way, whereas now it's giving you that extra 5-10% that might help you, and it's now a weakness if you don't use it or use someone to talk to. I think it's huge in the game. I think if you can grab that information and make yourself a better player, and make yourself stronger, then it's all for the better. I think the problems you can often find is it's okay when you're winning games because you naturally just go with the flow. When you start losing games, you'll find whether it's Sunday League or any like the Premier League or Champions League at England, people start to chat between themselves. He's not doing his job, is he? he's not doing what he should be doing, and that's when the problems kick in. And you can't do that because everyone has a bad game, everyone has a dip in form. No one wants to do that. It's just something that happens. It's confidence. It creeps into everyone's game at some point. And Liverpool, in some way, have had it over the last couple of weeks. And suddenly, you heard Andy Robertson come out and he just said, we need to just do what we do best and get back to what we were doing. And there was almost like a reality that it's, again, going back, we've got ourselves in that position from playing the way we've played all season. Why are we being negative and sitting back?
We talk about psychologists and we talk about the manager, but I wanted to get you on what you've just touched on there, which is the idea of the players sort of managing each other a little bit. So, you know, would you or would any other players on the pitch, if they saw a player and they just sort of thought, looks like his head's going a little bit there, would you go and grab him? Would you have a little word with him? I mean, you saw Robertson out in Munich, you know, you could see him talking to himself, absolutely gutted that he picked up that booking, which means he misses the next round. But equally, he's played great all season, so it's fine. And you know, I'm in the stands and I could see it, and I thought I'd love to just go down and give him a bit of a cuddle and say, "It's all right, Andy. Don't worry about it. We've still got a title to go for." But he was running up and down, muttering to himself, and I thought that can't be great that he's allowing that yellow card to get to him, and maybe someone should have spotted it, put a bit of an arm round briefly.
I don't think it got to him at all.
You don't think so, no?
No, I see it in a different way. I see it as in the fact that it means that much to him to play in the next round, that he's disappointed in the decision against him. And that, I think that was a good sign. I don't think that was a negative. I don't think it was he wasn't beating himself up. It was more the fact of, I just can't believe that happened. And some players have brushed that off and go, oh well, I'm missing the next game. But it means that much to him to be part of the squad and part of the team to get through that. I think when you talk about someone going up to him and sort of speaking to him, Lallana did it straight after the game. I was at the game right behind as the players were walking towards the away fans who were higher up behind me. And Lallana was walking with him, sort of trying to have a laugh and a joke, just to take that pressure off him. And then as soon as Klopp had sort of gone round the players, he found Robertson straight away, went over to him, arm round him, and it was one of them. Listen, it happens, don't worry about it. But that just shows the character of Robertson. He's desperate to play week in, week out.
Can a player switch off to that? You know, in your career, did you have some players who you know they'd get booked and it meant something, they were going to miss a game, or even if it was just a silly book and they were going to, you know, they shouldn't have done it, and they can just put it out the mind, or does it sit in your mind? You know, is everyone like Robertson where he's muttering to himself, or are some people like, sound, that's happened? Yeah,
you'll get both. I mean, I was never like that. If I missed a game through suspension, I was fuming. I hated it. But then you live on the knife edge because you've got yourself in that situation in the first place. So that's the way it is. I was once told to take a booking to miss a game because I was at Blackburn at the time and we were playing Tottenham the week after, but then we had a run of games where we were in a relegation fight and we were playing all the teams in and around us, and the manager said, well, I'd rather you didn't play against Tottenham because we're away from home. It's going to be a tough game anyway. We're not guaranteed to get any points. Not that you're guaranteed to get them in the others. But he said, I want my strongest team out for them games. And I was like, right, okay, that's fine. If that's what the manager wants you to do.
But at the 88th minute, just thinking, who's getting this now? whose right ankle's getting volleyed here?
Yeah, it was the easiest thing to do though, was just handball.
Pull a shirt,
handball or pull a shirt. It's not hard to do. But they're the things that sometimes a manager might ask you to do. And that's a different side to the game. So I never wanted to miss a game through suspension, and it would frustrate me.
I wanted to get you on as well, you know, again around this same theme. So when you're on the pitch and you're out there, and you know, I've read loads of players' biographies and things like that, and they talk about sort of getting in the zone and having a bit of a sort of tunnel vision and blocking things out and all that. But equally, you know, we've talked about it before, we've talked to other players, and they've been more open and honest about the idea that, of course, the crowd gets here, of course, it can get your blood up and things like that. But in a run like what Liverpool are on at the moment, there will be times, and there'll be times again, where they know they've got to get the result because of how good City are. They know these remaining 7 games, they likely have to win all 7. Are you conscious of the time? Are you conscious of the time? Would you look up and look at clocks or scoreboards or anything like that?
Of course you would.
Yeah?
Yeah, of course you do.
Because I just wondered how much that could, or you're just focusing on the game.
Yeah, you're focusing on the game. I think first half will always go easier. if you go in at half time and it's 0-0, second half you're always looking at the clock thinking, is this going to happen? And it's one of them as well. It's when someone misses a glaring opportunity and you think, it's not our day. And you have thoughts like that as well as the fans do, and you often think like that, but you're always going to look at the clock and think, you're as desperate as the fans are. You're as desperate to get that goal, to take that relief and pressure off the team, because often you know that once you score one goal, the other team's got to come out and it's going to open gaps up for you, especially the way Liverpool and Man City play. And it'll be in the Man City players' minds as well. It's not only in Liverpool players' minds. And everyone says, oh, but they've won a title. Yeah, but they want to win another one. So there's huge pressure on them as well. Not only if they wanting to win a title, they're probably the most expensive team that's been assembled in football history. So there's massive pressure on them as well. The difference is that they don't have the following that Liverpool have and the history that Liverpool have. So there's your different pressures, and I think Liverpool's pressure's bigger because of the history of the clubs.
On the psychology stuff as well, and we touched on in previous pro views how you worked with psychologists at times, and I think it was at Blackburn you said it was particularly beneficial to you. I think I remember you saying something like, you got a great night's sleep and things like that because of certain things that have been said. Can you remember what that was and what the techniques were and share a little bit of that?
It sounded a bit weird, this.
Sort of lie back on the couch now and relive this in for you.
It was. No, it was one of them where he said, right, I want you to... he actually said to me, it's going to be a bit strange, this, because you're going to have to lie on the bed. And I was lying on the bed and he was sat at the end on a chair. And we were playing Fulham the next day in the game. And he just said, I was playing centre mid in the game. So he said, what do you want to achieve out the game? So I said, well, I want forward passes. I want to win every challenge that I can win. I want to trap me runners all the time. So he's like, right, close your eyes and just envisage that happening all the time. And you're just repeating it over and over in your mind. And he was like, right, now create an atmosphere around the ground. What do you want that atmosphere to be? So I was like, well, we're away from home. Want to silence the crowd. So he's like, well, we'll create it then. Listen to that in your head. So I'm lying there doing this, and he was saying, are you going to score a goal? And I was like, well, it'd be nice to. We'll see it happening, see yourself getting in them positions, how quickly you have to get the ball out your feet to shift it, to get the shot away, and little things like that. And I woke up, and it was 8:30 in the morning, and he'd gone, and I was like, what's gone on here? And he just hypnotised me to sleep, just everything that was going on. I remember coming down for breakfast and he was like, morning, you okay? And I was like, when did you leave? And he was like, you just went. He said, that's what we wanted to happen. And I went out that night and I think I hit the post, had 2 saved by Mark Schwarzer, unbelievable saves, made a goal line save and tackle, which prevented a goal. Got man of the match, we won the game 2-1. And suddenly we started climbing the league and my form just picked up massively. And I was just sort of ringing him every week. Yeah. Can you come round? Can you come round again? But he was just like, no, but you can recreate that in your mind. And I was like, yeah. And you start to get in the process, but then you fall out that process because you start playing well and you think, well, I only have to do a little bit. Whereas when he does it, and when he was doing, like, talking to me, it was so, like, the fine details and the things he was talking about. And it's simple things like, and this sounds really daft, was getting up in the morning, clean shaven, hair done properly, tracksuit clean, feel the part, look the part, and it's all little things like that, so that when you walk in, everyone's looking at you thinking you mean business and you're not scruffy and you don't look sort of like you don't want to be in that situation, you don't want to be turning up to a game. And he said, be the first one off the bus as well. First one off the bus straight away. And he said, like, just sort of take it on, take the challenge on of, like, because we were in a battle against relegation, it was like, be the first one to sort of say to the lads, right, you're following me, I'll set the standard here. And that's what the problem was. He was saying that to everyone else. So everyone's trying to get off the bus, fight their way out. So everyone's trying to get off the bus, and I was like, you been chatting to Jamil? And they were like, yeah. First one off the bus. But that was what everyone was like, and everyone took it on. Well, not everyone, but the lads who took it on board, you could tell the difference in the way that they were approaching games and their attitude towards it. Because often as well, whether you're at the top of the league or the bottom of the league, if you give a pass away and it leads to an opportunity down the other end or a period of play where they suddenly get momentum, it affects you. And that doesn't matter whether you're a top player or a bottom of the league player. It doesn't make any difference.
I mean, that's the same as well, to segue off for a moment with the media side of things a little bit, I guess, now, because you will have done it yourself at some point, and I've done it loads, I'll probably do it on this show, but you know, you say something and then you think that's not right, that. And then like you're trying to move the conversation on, and you're trying to make your rest of your points, but in your head, it's like the misplaced pass, isn't it? It's like it's in your head going, oh, shit, I fucked up. I made a mistake.
I did it the other night on 6. What was I on the other day? Yeah, 6:06, and yesterday afternoon. Sorry, I was doing a radio show for 5 Live, and I was talking about the best team that England had, apart from now, was probably '96 under Glenn Hoddle. But it was Terry Venables. And it wasn't until later on I was like, shit, it was Terry Venables. Yeah. And you just go, I can't believe. And then suddenly everyone's on Twitter going, it's not him.
Yeah.
And
I've just corrected myself on another show saying City had a game this week. I'm like, no, they don't see internationals. So what I meant was,
yeah, exactly.
But, so, if you were a Liverpool player now, you'd imagine maybe some of the players coming back from the holidays they've had or the international breaks. What are they looking to do to do that? Are they trying to, is Salah trying to put them 7 games out of, without a goal out of his head? Or is he speaking to a psychologist or a friend or someone who's saying,
you've got to surround yourself
with the Bayern Munich assist kind of thing?
Yeah, you've got to surround yourself with good people and take the positives from everything that you're doing. The thing for me with Salah is, as much as he hasn't scored in the last 7 games, the amount of work he's doing in taking people away from Mane, done it now. So you're taking him away from Mane and Firmino, and you're looking and you're thinking, well, he's doing his job. Because everyone's not seeing that side of the game, but if you can take people away and you can drag them away from your 2 other great players, then for me, you're doing a job for the team, and that's the bigger picture that you have to look at. When you go on holiday, it's like any job. Why'd you go on holiday? Because you need a break. You need a rest mentally from going in from the same people every single day, seeing the same faces. Because when you go into a football club, arguably work as well, you know them better than your family, and you have to live with people every single day in that environment. I don't think the Liverpool players get many days off, so there isn't that time to recover, and sometimes you just need that mental break to get away, to put your feet up. And I'm sure it looked like where Salah was there anyway, he's not going to have people pestering him every single day saying, are we going to win it? Are we going to win it? When are you going to score? And that's also what you don't need. You don't need them people putting that extra pressure on you constantly, day in, day out, and telling you that. I think what was nice to see with Salah, and it'll probably help him massively, was he did something with his boot sponsor with a load of kids. Yeah. Now kids won't ask you the same questions. They'll ask you fun, enjoyable things. So for him, it's a complete different side to the media, which he can relax with.
And he met that Odell Beckham Jr., didn't he, as well? I think there's a photo with him. He's done something with Adidas, so he's had that probably just a reset, I suppose, and a bit of a relaxed, different conversation.
Yeah, and
not talking about Liverpool, just talking about his job.
And one of the big things as well is, I'm sure Beckham Jr. will be telling him he's a great person, great player, and he watches him, he follows him, and he thinks he's a great thing. Suddenly he's growing again, and he's thinking, well, if people over in America are hearing of me and they're watching me and they're telling me I'm a great player. Suddenly again it's a psychological thing where you don't even realise it's happening, but you're gaining confidence again. But I think a lot of people talk about warm weather, going away and during the season, and is it worth it? For me, it's worth its weight in gold, just to recharge the batteries, get a bit of sun, put your feet up for a bit. And as well, we don't know whether he's been carrying a knock or a niggle for a few weeks as well, and it just gives him that opportunity and other players just to rest up.
On Mo Salah then, and all the talk that's happened around Mo Salah, I wanted to get you on the idea of a star player, not just Mo Salah, but just in general. You know, when you've played in teams, lots of teams will have a star player, obviously. Liverpool, it was levied at them for a long time about, you know, they were too reliant on Gerrard, then it was Gerrard and Torres, then it was Suarez, you know, and on it goes. I just wondered though, if you're a professional and you're playing in a team or you're part of a squad where there is a huge focus on one player in particular, are you naturally drawn to his performance yourself, and does it end up influencing you and the rest of the squad? So, you know, with the Salah thing, you know, I personally think, as Jay touched on a minute ago, that he's performing well. He might not be putting the ball in the back of the net, but he's making a good contribution. His assist in Munich was world class, for instance. But yeah, how does that affect you? Would you be looking at it and think, he's our main man and he's not scoring here? Is that in your head? Is that part of the process, or are you getting on with your own job?
I think it depends, because I think when you look at, when I played, we had Gerrard. We didn't have Torres when I was there. Didn't have Suarez either. So it was just one man on his own. I think when you look at the team now, and you've got Mane doing it, Firmino doing it, I don't see it being an issue when one of them doesn't fire on all cylinders. When you've got Mane scoring the goals that he's scoring, he's sort of taking the pressure off Salah. Well, everyone's still looking at Salah, just saying, why is he not performing? But Mane's still going under the radar, and everyone's sort of just leaving him to it. You think, well, actually, now he's become the main man, and people aren't talking about it. I look at Tottenham this season. They had a spell where Harry Kane fell out the team through injury, and Son just stepped up to the plate. And then Harry Kane came back in, and everyone was like, well, Harry will do it now, because that's what he does. And Tottenham's sort of form dipped massively, because I think a lot of the players might have just thought, well, Harry's in the team, he scores goals out of nowhere. Well, he's not up to form, he's not firing on all cylinders, he's not fully fit yet, so why is he going to do that straight away? And I think Liverpool players have to look at sort of Salah and think, well, we've got to help him as much as we can. We've got to find better positions to get him into, maybe playing the ball that slightly bit quicker, or use his runs to their advantage. I think there's different ways of looking at it when you've got star players in your team. For me, I still think he's doing the unselfish thing and taking players away. So if I was a player within that changing room, I'd just be saying, keep doing what you're doing.
Would any managers that you worked under, or even them players themselves, would they ever use it? Would it ever be an issue that would be discussed? So would you have a manager saying to you basically, well, yeah, we all know Gerrard's good, but you all need to, you can't just rely on him.
Oh yeah, you'll always get that.
Yeah.
You'll always get people saying, it's even when like you talk about goals scored in a team, and everyone looks at it and they'll say, well, you defenders have got to start sort of jumping in with a few now, or assisting. It's not up to just them to provide all the time. You've got to up your game as well. No one's a one-man team or a two-man team. It only comes as a collective. Liverpool wouldn't survive if you just put the front three out on the pitch. They'd get nowhere, would they? It's like you've got to play as a collective unit, and that's what the front three do as well, and that's what Salah does very well. But everyone's got to contribute in some way or another to do that. And I think in a whole, Liverpool have got a very good balance of that. When you look at the fullbacks and the chances that they create every single game and the assists that they've got this season, I think that shows that it's not just the front three who do all the hard work within the team.
But then is there a feeling as a fullback, if you've got a player like Salah, does not to make his job easier, but are you thinking get him the ball as quick as you can, or are you just thinking, well, you know, I can play my game, he will get it and he'll do his bit, and does it make it easier for you? You know, because sometimes where I sit in the cop, I look at Robertson's, you know, when we're attacking the Annie Road, he's in front of me, and I look up the line, and all I'm thinking is, you know, I've played left back, not very good admittedly, but I'm like, just give it to Manny because he's boss, mate, just give it to him. And there's lots of times he doesn't, and it's like, I'm thinking, well, that's the easy ball, so if it's not going your way, give it up the line, let him deal with it, but he's not, he's playing it inside. You know, do you feel more confident as a fullback knowing you've got a player like that you can just give it to and he'll do something with it, or would you actively think, well, I can't just rely on him?
I mean, I was fortunate enough to play with like good wingers in my career. The first one I had was Pedersen when I went to Blackburn, in the fact that I knew every time I give him the ball, and if I made an overlap, he'd be playing left back I didn't even have to tell him. He just went there and I'd play left midfield. So straight away there was an understanding between us. And because I loved playing with him and he loved playing with me, our work ethic together was just unbelievable. Then I moved on and went to Villa, and I had Ashley Young in front of me. Now it was completely different there, because I knew Ash, as hard working as he is, didn't want to play left back. This is sort of before he went to United. But the one thing I knew about Ash was, and I think he'd probably tell you the same, was I made him a better player in the fact that I just ran past him every single time. The fullback was like, well, if I don't run with him, I can't close the cross down. If I do, he just slips him in. And it works so well all the time that I just knew that he'd get himself in a position where he'd always want the ball, but he'd always give me that opportunity to run round him and make it difficult for the winger and the fullback to deal with. So it just goes on the relationship of knowing when to play that pass. Like Robertson, where you're talking about there, and you look up and you think, just play that pass. There'll be a reason he doesn't play that pass. And I think, again, it comes down to the training methods of the team. Often they wait for a certain situation before they really penetrate to make sure that they can get at the heart of the other team. They don't do it just for the sake of playing a ball to Mane with the two players up his back, and it's pointless because you're not actually going to get anywhere. And what also you're doing is you're probably endangering losing the ball in a position and then the team coming at you.
But does that star player get annoyed sometimes? Because I've seen almost, it looks like anyway, as a fan, I've seen where the centre-half's got the ball and Gerrard's called for it and he doesn't get it, and I've seen him almost like, you think he's a bit frustrated. I see Salah do it lots, goes to make that run and he doesn't come to, and he's throwing it down, and he's not annoyed. I'm not saying he's throwing a tantrum, but do they expect it, or is that just part of the game if they know they're keeping that defender on the toes, or are they just thinking, I'm the star man, if you give me the ball, I'm ready to take it kind of thing?
I just think there's an expectancy upon themselves to want the ball all the time because they think they can make something happen. The difference being is that if you're, say for sake, I'm Robertson and you're Mane now, and you're looking at me.
I'm just imagining me as Sadio Mane there. I'll be dead, just as the kids in me just thinking, I've just scored a boss goal in the Allianz,
I was imagining being Robertson. a good left back. But the difference is like, you're looking at me, so you can't see everything behind you. I'm looking at all that, and I can see everything. So there might be a time where you think, I can have the ball, but you can't see what's happening going on behind you, and I can. And I think that's the difference sometimes, is that what will happen is I might come out and I might go across the pitch and you're moaning at me saying, give me the ball. And as the play's progressing, you've took your eye off that and you're now over there. But these two are discussing and I'm saying to you, I couldn't give you because you had two players up your back here. And you haven't, but you've automatically followed the ball and not seen the conversation between myself and you. And that's sometimes what happens, and that's what's different to the untrained eye of a fan and a player, because you're in that moment and talking. I can be running across the pitch looking that way, but still talking to you. Listen, I'll give you it next time when you can. Or don't go in that position next time. Pull out wider because they're not following you in that position. Yeah. It's just different scenarios that'll happen on the pitch, but there'll always be a frustration with the better players because they want the ball all the time, because they always think they can affect the game.
But it's looked to me, certainly at times watching Liverpool for years and years, that it went too far at sometimes. So, I mean, certainly when we had Steve McManaman, there was a stage where it basically was, if Steve McManaman played well, Liverpool played well, and if he didn't, he didn't. And it was almost, but it seemed to reach a stage where it was, give it to Steve McManaman and he'll make something happen. And I used to think, watching it, I love Steve McManaman, he was great to watch, but I did used to think, watching it from the stands, well, that's a huge pressure on him to basically be match winner or goal creator or goal scorer week after week after week after week. And I remember, there was a game, I think it was against Middlesbrough, where the man marked him to the extent where Steve took his shirt off and went like that to the defender. But it showed to me that there was frustrations around being that star man as well.
Yeah, I think there will be, but I think when we look at the Liverpool team now and we don't have that problem. We don't have that one person that we rely on and say, well, if he doesn't turn up today, we're going to struggle. Because we've got other players now that'll step up to the plate, and we've also got options off the bench who are trying to push their way into the team as well. So I think that's the one thing that I'd actually say under Brendan Rodgers as well. He tried to improve that, was to bring more attack-minded, creative players into the team to take the pressure off the Gerrard. So when he brought in a Suarez or a Torres or a Coutinho, and Sturridge as well, it wasn't just suddenly you were looking at Gerrard, well, stop Gerrard and that'll work. Well, stop Gerrard and Suarez and it'll work. No, stop Gerrard, Suarez and Coutinho and it'll work. And that's the difference now in the Liverpool team, is like you look around, you look at the team and you come in, you'll go, who are we stopping today? Yeah. How are we stopping it? And that's the great thing that you look at in the team. The only argument I'd have is that City's depth is bigger than ours. And they do have more options off the bench who are like for like and can make things happen all the time.
The last little thing I wanted to get you on before we wrap up is just which you're doing a lot more media work now and across the board as well. So, you know, it's BBC sometimes, isn't it? And then it's other channels and it's abroad. And you're obviously getting to speak to a lot of people who work analysing football. And I just wondered what your vibe is about how you think Liverpool's viewed now, because I know we're obviously going to have one view, but we're in a bit of our own bubble as Liverpool fans. So you're probably stepping out of that more than the likes of me and JR. So when you're stepping outside of that bubble, how do you feel people view Liverpool now as a club and where they are? Because, you know, in the past there's been, well, they're around fourth or they're around fifth and they might have a cup run, but that's it. And no one really, you know, it seems Liverpool lost a little bit of the lustre and weren't really feared. Yeah. Do you think we've got that back now?
I think so. I think, speaking to a lot of people, there's a feeling that if Liverpool win the league this year, they'll be dominant for years or thereabouts with City. It's almost like if you get that one over the line, then people are scared of it happening. You only have to see Rooney coming out the other day and saying it'd be a nightmare if Liverpool win the league, because that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of that domino effect happening. And it's what happened to Man United. The other side of it is that as much as people love Klopp and listening to him and seeing him on the telly, there was also became a bit of when he started sort of blaming things, it was like, don't like that. Be honest and don't moan about things. And I think that's where Guardiola has probably the upper hand with the neutrals, is that he doesn't moan about much, Guardiola. He never sort of moans about state of pitches or anything. He just says, no, we weren't good enough and the other team were better on the day. We never usually hear him moaning about much, whereas Klopp has in the last month or so blamed the wind and pitches and things like that. And I think that had a little bit of a detrimental effect on his character. And I think that's why people sort of swayed towards City to win the league as a neutral.
Do you think some of that's a little bit spin though? Because I think, you know, the win thing, for instance, when Guardiola was first appointed at City, you know, and I think, you know, it's Sky that regularly does that thing where they'll get a question and at every press conference they ask that manager, you know, and I think that week it was, well, Guardiola's new here, you know, he's new to the Premier League, you've been here for a bit, what would your one piece of advice be to him? And when they asked Jurgen Klopp, which is way back when now, obviously, he said the wind. He said the wind in England's mad, basically, and he said, and it affects the way you play football. And that would be my little bit of advice for him. So I think he's dropped it in a lot, but because we're in the centre of a title race and because the magnifying glass is so on Liverpool and everything he says, I think that's why that ended up being huge and ended up being. But he
never mentions it when we win.
True.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
And that's again where your perception of someone comes across, but it's when you listen to it in the now. And that's what you hear.
But are you more prepared, not you, but are people in the media or neutrals more prepared to give the Guardiola the benefit of the doubt because he's won, you know, countless trophies than say Klopp? And if Klopp wins, you know, a bit like Ferguson didn't just get this, you know, position in the media that he could just say what he wants and not be challenged. He earned it, didn't he? As such, I'm not saying Klopp's not earned it, but I think there might be a thing just where it's, well, we can say that to Klopp because he's not an elder statesman of the game as such, wins two, you know, if he won 2 trophies at Liverpool this year, they'd probably treat him very differently next season, wouldn't they?
Yeah, of course. And I think that it's just a respect thing, isn't it, within the media, is like you say about Guardiola winning things. He's a serial winner. He's come to this country. He's proven himself again. Whereas Klopp it's taken that little bit longer. I think you look at what Jurgen's done in the past, it doesn't mean anything in England. That's the big thing about it, is that you have to come here and you have to prove yourself again and prove that you can win it. For me, being a Liverpool fan, I just think he's a breath of fresh air, though. I just love listening to him talk. I love listening to his enthusiasm for the team and the way things are. And it was great to hear him sort of last week, I think it was before the Fulham game, where he just said, "No one can judge me. Like, I'll be judged at the end of my life."
Thank God.
Yeah, I thought, but he's right though, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's from what he's done for this football club, the position they were in, to the position he took them to the style of football we play now. I mean, a lot of people are saying to me he needs to go if he doesn't win trophies. Are you serious? No chance. I'm not having that at all.
And I suppose in the dressing room, you know, you're a player, you're probably coming in disappointed from that. You know, I'd imagine I'd be disappointed after that Derby game, thinking, you know, we should have beat them there. Is he just doing that as well, a bit like to deflect? Are the players happy with that? Even if they're sat there thinking, is he messing? It ain't even that windy. They're sat there thinking, well, he hasn't slagged us off, he hasn't criticised us. He's shouldered all of the, you know, the thing. He's deflected it, hasn't he? No one's talked about the game, how we played against him. He's deflected it. Everyone's going, you know, he had a go at the ball boy and moaned about the win. No one's talked about how we actually played in that game.
But then he's not done it in the past, has he?
No.
And that's the difference, and that's where, again, we look at, is he cracking under pressure? And because suddenly everyone's saying, well, he's cracking under pressure, and all the players are going, is he? And the players will think that as well. They'll automatically go, God, he is. He's completely different to us. Everyone does. It's like the captain of a ship, isn't it? If it's in trouble, if he's calm and relaxed, he'll keep everyone on board calm and relaxed and not a problem. Whereas if he starts panicking and running around, there's all hell breaks loose on the ship. It's no different to a football team and the club in general.
I think, as you say, though, whatever, it feels like to me that whatever unfolds from here on in, that Klopp's got the absolute trust of everyone around Liverpool, so the players, the fans, the owners, and you know, for once, or you know, for the first time in a long time, for me, it feels like pretty much everything about the club is pushing in the right direction. There's no, there's no sniff of sort of internal politics. There's no sniff of, you know, some people wanting this player and the manager wanting to do it. You know, everyone seems to be on the right page, pointing in the right direction. You know, Liverpool have followed up being in the Champions League final and finishing fourth, with being right up there again, deep into the Champions League again. And you can't see, can you, what I'm saying? It all sort of falling off a cliff and next season we're shit again. Because that's what's happened in the past, but this feels more sustainable, what's being built this time around.
Yeah, I think when you're attracting the players like you're attracting to the club now. Like, we needed a goalkeeper, and we went out and we got arguably the best goalkeeper we could get. Wanted a centre back, we got the best one we could get. Now, if you're a board and you don't trust your manager, you don't do that. You don't go out and spend that type of money on them, and it's always a gamble. Doesn't matter how good they've played in the past at their clubs. It's always a gamble signing someone. But to go and back him with sort of, what was it, 60 million for Alisson or more, 65 was it? And
you're looking at the best part of 150 million for the both of them.
Yeah, and you go and spend that. Suddenly, that shows you how much this board believe in him. From things that I hear around the club, like if he wants something doing, if he wants a trip, if he wants something to happen with the players, it's done. Because they believe in everything that he does, and you've got to. He's for me. I talked about it before, that he hasn't earned it off the press in England, but he's earned that respect from what he's done in the past at Dortmund, how he built that team up into the force that they became, and he's bound to get linked with other jobs now because of the job that he's done at Liverpool. But I would not be getting rid of him quick.
Absolutely not. All right, well, great stuff, lads. That has been the Pro View. We'll get staying again soon because there will be plenty to talk about, of course. 7 games to go in the league. Hopefully 5, is it, in the Champions League if we get all the way to the final as well. So that'll be nice to be talking about all of those games as well. But yeah, nice one to Steve, nice one to Jay. That has been the Pro View from the Anfield app.